if you're new here, I'm Kanity, and if you're already watching my channels, welcome back. So here I'm going to play the game that I made for Ludum Dare, that is this April, and it's Ludum Dare 55, and the theme we had was summoning, and that was actually perfect, even though I was expecting fishing at first, but I wanted to make kind of horror game, maybe not really that scary, but with horror vibes for a while. And when I saw the theme summoning, that's the direction my thoughts went in. First of all, I'm going to talk a little bit about the process of creating this game. So if you are not interested in all of that and you just want to see the game, I will put the time code here where the walkthrough, the playthrough starts. And so I spent first day mostly on planning, figuring out everything, like what the game is going to be about, what engine I'm going to use, what is the story, the level design. So here you can see some of the process. Well, it's inverted unfortunately, but you can see parts of this process in the game. Actually, I used it as one of the game assets. Here I just planned everything out, how the main character looks. It took a lot of pages actually, and I prefer doing it by hand. So I planned how the game is going to go, what rooms are we going to look at, and the story is basically that you're awakening in a coffin. Maybe it's not evident in the first seconds of gameplay, but this was my idea for a game. For a while ago I had a game called Dead End. I started working on it, where you wake up in a coffin, but then I had no idea like what actually happened. I had no idea how to finish this game, what the story actually is, but thanks for the theme summoning, I put this idea in a very different game, to be honest, but still kept some details from Dead End. So now it's kind of a merge of my old idea and the ideas for the gem. And this time I was working in RenPy. I already had some experience with it, making my first Otome game, Heartbreak. That was kind of like anti-Otome, about a romance that maybe you shouldn't have in your life. And then my second visual novel, that is like Yuri Noir, I like to call it. There's a demo of it out, and I'm going to be working on a full release. So I already had an idea on how to use RenPy, and the genre of this game that I decided to call Evocation. The genre is more of a point-and-click adventure, but mixed with a visual novel in a way. So you can actually interact with the environment a little bit, but there are also visual novel parts of it, not only some text, but also the opportunity for different endings, as it's stated on my itch.io page and my Ludum Dare page. There are 4 main endings. Well, basically there are 2 main endings in the game, one special ending and also one bad ending that is just for failing the mini game. I had a lot of coding to do, which I'm not that good at because I don't have that much experience. I'm more of a like narrative designer, writer, and bit of an artist, right? But I'm still kind of learning in many of the aspects. And this time I feel like I made more of an emphasis on, well, for me it was more coding than usual, but the real emphasis is on audio, and I recorded everything by myself, like all the sounds. I made the music. I used beatbox to make really simple tunes, and then on that I placed the ambience that I recorded by myself, breathing, humming, knocking, etc. Things that I felt were appropriate for a horror game. And so with all of that, we got the final result, which is not really final because I maybe underestimated how much time I'm going to need to code everything in. So I took a lot of time for my audio design, and then I didn't have enough for coding. And the main mechanic of the game is a mini game where you summon something using the runes, using the spells. And I wanted to make some increased difficulty, I wanted to make more spells, but unfortunately it kind of takes a lot of time to write down the code for the whole game, I mean the mini game. And so there you can see I had something planned out for these different runes, and in what order they are going to be shown and which are the correct ones, etc, etc. So I didn't have time, unfortunately, because it was on like 1 hour before deadline, and I was basically just rushing to make this game completable, to make it possible for the player to actually get some endings. And unfortunately I had to cut a lot of corners, I had to cut a lot of content out, and I feel like because of that the ending is a bit rushed. But as you know, this is a game made in 3 days. So obviously that was inevitable. I don't feel like I overscoped, but maybe my time management wasn't the best, and I put too much priority on audio, and so I didn't have enough time for programming. But in the end, let's see the final result. We are going to play through it. It's a pretty short game, and I'm going to show you all the endings. And finally, if you're going to play it yourself, on the Ludum Dare page or my itch.io, you can find the game, and it's better to download it and play on your computer, though it's only for Windows, and I think it should work for Linux as well, because I exported a web option, but it's really buggy, it seems, because for Empire I think they're still kind of testing out the web build, I'm not sure, but it gives a lot of errors, unfortunately, so it's best to download. And with all that said, yeah, let's play, let's go. This is one of the compositions I wrote. It's for the main menu, so maybe not all people are going to hear it in full. But I suggest listening through it. It's one of my favorites. That's basically where it ends. It's a very short composition. I wanted to put it in the main menu, but I think many people just open it and click start right away, so they don't actually get to listen to the full song. Well, it's kind of a very short song. And again, here I recorded the singing by myself. I'm not very good at singing, but it's a little bit, so you can't really tell, I think. Okay, let's start. Because here we have a different music composition that I used also a tune that I made in Beatbox and put some special effects on it, and some knocking, which I think maybe it was a bit too much of knocking on second thought after a lot of play testing. And also, see, it has voice acting as well. I was talking, so you didn't hear it. But there's, you wake up and there's some voice saying, I hear you, somehow, right? What did I press here? What is this? Well, you'll have to deal with this. I think I'm not sure what I pressed. Here's the knocking. You look around you, there's darkness everywhere. Only a sliver of purple light comes through, shining right into your face. You wince and try to move your hands. There's something on your chest. And here you see the scroll. In my original idea of game Dead End that I had years ago, you just had to like touch all the parts of the coffin and you kind of realized pretty quick that you are in a coffin. But here I changed it a little, and because the theme was summoning, I wanted to make some kind of summoning game. And here we have this scroll. I used Slavic runes because this is like my culture, the culture that is closer to me, and the setting is actually in St. Petersburg in my mind. Well, maybe not like real life contemporary St. Petersburg, but kind of inspired by it and very dystopian. On the back of the scroll, there is a picture of a single arm, bursting with muscles. You look at the runes, your thoughts jumbled. How did you get here? And where is here? And what is this paper? Somehow, the runes look familiar. This makes you realize there's nothing to latch on in your head, no memory of anything, of yourself. You squeeze your eyes shut, relying on the inner knowledge hidden in the back of your mind. There they are, the runes that summon strengths. You have to remember the scroll and choose the correct ones. So here I wanted to give a little bit of heads up that now you have to remember it, keep it in mind. And for the first one, I chose the simplest one. I think it's pretty easy to remember these runes. Here is, let's make it a bit quieter. Here is the mini game, and I wrote a separate music composition for the mini game that I wanted to give a bit of intense feeling to, that you are kind of being rushed to do something. So basically, when you choose the correct rune, well, let's start with the wrong one. It will be easier. When you choose the wrong rune, there is a sound effect of roaring, and this is again also everything that I recorded myself. So this is all me. And for the correct rune, we got this, also my voice. I just used a little bit of like audio effects. So if you choose, I just saved and we are going to check the bad ending. If you choose the wrong runes 3 times, and it is 3 times in entire game, so the game counts every mistake throughout all of the game. So you can make like 1 mistake in first rune game, 2nd mistake in 2nd rune game, 3rd in the 3rd one, and then you'll get the bad ending. It shouldn't be for only 1 mini game. It's like for the whole playthrough. And again, as I was running out of time, there's nothing special about this ending, so it just says this is the bad ending for choosing wrong runes 3 times in a row. And also maybe in a perfect world it doesn't like straight up tell you what you did wrong, it should be obvious, but as I was kind of still writing the script in my Visual Studio, I kind of told it for myself mostly, like what is this bad ending. It might be more interesting when the game is polished after that jam. So scroll the mouse wheel up to save scum. I thought if people forget to save and they get this bad ending, they will be discouraged, because if you click now, you will be taken back to main menu. So I wanted to give this heads up just for this version of the game. Because it's still not complete, but for the real version I'm not going to give this heads up. This is it. This will be the bad ending and you will be taken to the main menu. So there was also a separate sound for a successful game, which I recorded using a glass. You feel a rush of strength. With this you push the darkness away. You hear the wood splinter and the cover flies off. I think actually for wood splinter, I used a cookie. I took a cookie and crumbled it, then put some audio effects on it. So this is that sound. You sit up and hear that voice again. Oh gosh. It's pretty quiet, but I suppose it should be quiet. It should be a bit muffled, and you can still hear it when you are playing. Someone is waiting for you somewhere, and by the sound of their voice, there is not much time left. You look around the room. It feels like there was an explosion wave. Parts of plaster, furniture, and humans lie scattered around. And yeah, it looks very cartoonish. As I said, I'm a kind of an artist, but I'm not perfect. I'm self-taught and I'm trying to improve every day, every time. But I did best as I could, creating kind of a gruesome scene, but I think it's not too gruesome because the style is so simple and cartoonish. There's also something on the floor near the coffin, and here is the first time we can take something from the screen. You bend down and take the scroll. There is a raven drawn on one side and runes on another. You can refer to it when you wish to summon ravens. There are doors in all four directions. You feel warmth from the right, draft from the left, a sweet aroma behind you, and smell of freedom in the front. So there are little hints what rooms you are going to see when you go like left, right, up or down, where to go. And here I added little arrows so we can choose which room to visit. And I always started my playthroughs with the left room. You can't really go up. It just tells you this door is closed, you need a key or a scroll, because this is actually like our final room. This is where we go in the end. You have no choice but to go back. Again, maybe it will be a little different in a complete game, but it's good like that for now. Now, if we go down, we see this beautiful room. I call it either flower room or interview room, and you might guess from the look of it that I was already a bit running out of time when I started drawing this background, so it looks basically like a garden even though it should have been like just a lot of bouquets of flowers, but if it works, it works. And here you should also find this flower, so I suppose it's a bit of a pixel hunting, as I already know where everything is. I'm not sure how hard it is, but I made the color different so it stands out more and there's more chance you're going to kind of click on it. There are some interviews on the table. So here's another little advice for the player. It kind of breaks the immersion a little bit, but I wanted people to be able to like comfortably look at the stuff. And here we have a few interviews. On top we have Dima. In his appearance, I kind of used the inspiration of Ima style with his hair, and his name also wasn't an accident, because the name Dima in Russian, you can also, if you are like friends, bros with Dima, you can call him Dimon, which sounds pretty close to the word demon in English. So I thought that's a really fitting name. And then, as I told you, the setting is kind of in Russia, in St. Petersburg, so I decided to use some of Russian names. His goals are peace and quiet, he is scared of heights, and he has relatives, grandma and dad, and we see there's a cross here. Then we have Lila, so her goals are something and success. She has a fear of birds, and with her relatives we see sister, but obviously there's still space, so there's also someone else, maybe her mom. And here we have a hidden interview. I kind of had in my mind what it says when I wrote it, but you can see only little pieces of it. I can kind of spoil it, I suppose. So I wasn't really sure about the name, so it can change if I change my mind. So maybe I'm not going to say the name that I had in mind then. The goal is freedom. The greatest fear is losing control. And relatives, it says deceased. That all relatives are deceased. And obviously you can deduce here that these candidates, they were not chosen for some reason. You can figure out the reason from their answers, I think. And maybe with like looking through different rooms, through different clues. I didn't want to make the story too obvious, so for now we are just kind of playing through. I'll give some hints, but I will explain the story after I finish my walkthrough. And so here we see that this candidate was approved. Looking through the papers, you remember some distant voices. So there's going to be... What are you scared of? As you remember, I used this part in main menu melody. Losing control. And this is the answer that we had on this interview page. You try repeating the words, but it seems you can't speak. A sudden urge comes to you, as if by itself your hand rises. This is also an important moment, that this character you are playing as, they don't talk because they can't. They technically cannot talk, and I think this is very logical for their situation they are in, and I thought this is a nice logical explanation for having a character that doesn't speak at all. You touch your own forehead, lost in thought. Something hard and cold is in the middle, right in the middle of your forehead. So here I wanted to make some scare a little bit, but again I didn't have time. So this moment where you touch your forehead, I wanted to include maybe some scary moment. I'm not entirely sure. I thought maybe there's some blood coming out and then you see your bloody hands on screen, or maybe there's something, some distortion, something from your memories. But yeah, I didn't have time to work on it, so there's nothing. And then we have this picture book, cute picture book. Oh, it says on the table. See, that's how you can see that I rushed the game. The book was going to be on the table, but in the end I decided to put it here because there was a nice empty spot. So I'll have to fix that. And well, you can really see it without even like pressing, but in any case, that is my favorite piece of art in my game. I really like cute doodles, and so that was most fun to do. You have 4 creatures here, and again I used a bit of like Russian folklore as inspiration. Partly, like, you shouldn't learn Russian folk tales and folklore from this game. I only use it as inspiration, and with the runes as well. It's not like a complete accurate representation, it's just part of the influence. Because here, for example, we have Domik, and there is a creature we have that is called Domovoy, created from the word house. So it's like house elf, maybe, in theory. And that's not how Domovoy usually looks in our fairy tales. But here I combined him with a ghost. So it's like a house ghost. And they are also, as you can see, are given really cute names. So not Domovoy, but Domik. Not Zmei, but Zmi. not водяной, but Vodya. And here we have Cherry. So I'm not going to say his full name yet, and this is more like a creature that I created, that I thought up myself, but here in this realm of this game, he's just one of the many. But who are these many? This is for you to kind of figure out, and you can also note their qualities. That Domik is tidy and cheerful, Zmi is loving and sleepy, Vodya is friendly, careful, Cherry is free spirit and brave. So their qualities are also a bit of a hint for the game, so it's kind of important. Colorful creatures fill the pages. A memory comes back to you. So again, we have a little conversation here.
What were the creatures in this book? And who do you most relate? This cute one? Cherry?
Your head hurts, as if there is something in your brain trying to push away your soul. This is also a very important moment for understanding like the whole lore of the game. You bend over, barely holding it together. It is actually a different roar, not the same one you get for the wrong rune chosen. I recorded 2 different roars. Few seconds pass and you seem to have overcome this. And lastly, we have a flower. Such pretty flowers don't last forever. And this is all that our character is going to say for now, because we don't have necessary items. But yeah, there's a lot in this room, mainly again because of time constraints. There's usually like only 1 or 2 things per room. Well, now let's go left. This is like the best way to go through the game, in the most logical way, because it's pretty linear, right? You go left, then you go right, then you go down, and then you either go right again if you didn't finish everything there, or you finally go up. So let's go left. It's safe, just in case. Okay, this is one of the first rooms I did. Again, I wanted to add more details for the background, maybe more items you can interact with, to learn some more lore about the world. And unfortunately, again, didn't have time. And these guys, I really like how they turned out. I kind of wanted them to be a bit up there when they get close, but I guess that's also creepy enough. First of all, let's take this. You reach for another scroll with symbols of wind on it. It might come in handy. You take the scroll and look around. And so now we interact with the guys. Yeah, as you can see, I really put my heart into voice acting. It was so fun. It was honestly my favorite part of working on the game. It was, I don't know, I really liked it. I spent too much time on it. You don't touch us. And here's our first choice. And honestly, I wanted to make a more complicated system that decides which ending you get. But again, short amount of time I had, I simplified it a lot. So really here we can do both. We can check what happens if we let them be. Basically nothing happens, right? Yeah, they say it again. And I really like how this turned out. I used the assets that I already had in the game. I colored in Domik from the picture book. I used the flowers and the cherry also from the book I colored in, and also used him as a logo, so saving time in this way. Okay, this is my favorite part of the game. Okay, let's go through the mini game first. We are using the Raven Scroll. Here it's a little bit more difficult, well, tiny bit. Remember the runes and choose the correct ones in order. I know it all happens so fast, right? I was not sure if it's too fast. Comment your opinions. I kind of didn't want to make too slow. Because I think there's beauty in how quickly everything happens, but at the same time, I want you to kind of understand what actually happened. So basically, the ravens flying. You used that the raven scroll. You called for ravens. They came in, and they basically killed these humans, and. Again, I'm not that good at drawing, so I can't really draw everything in graphic details, but I actually like how it turned out with a more ambiguous style. It actually, in my opinion, looks creepier. And there's nothing else to do here, that's it. We cleared this room, good job. And remember here we made the decision to use the Raven Scroll. We didn't have to. And so there are different decisions that we make throughout the game, to use the scroll or not to use the scroll. And then I wanted to make more choices not connected to scrolls as well. Again, couldn't make it, but in theory, all these decisions, they are being documented in the game log, and then the game decides which ending you deserve. Now we go right. Here are some pretty candles. I took some time drawing them, and yeah, when you play, you can actually skip these movies accidentally if you click your mouse when they are being shown. I realized it when I was playtesting, so be careful with that. I'm not sure. I feel like it's not something to patch out really, because it's nice to be able to skip it if you don't want to watch it, if you are replaying the game, right? But at the same time, it's not very good that you can do it accidentally, right? You enter a room with candles, softly flickering, as if nothing happened. While main room was a mess, whatever tragedy befell it, it didn't touch the candles. And yeah, I think with the explosion wave that happened, everything in this building should be in more of a mess. And so maybe again in the future this is something I will add. But this is a peculiar detail. While the explosion wave, it didn't extinguish the candles. So the candles are softly flickering and you look around the room. So this is here, you can actually see which object is an active object. I kind of just realized this. So this is a good hint for you, right? What can you use on the screen? Something that, but I also tried to make it a bit of a different color, right? Make the flame a different color, so you would understand that you have to click on this to interact with the candles. And you have the wind scroll. Do you wish to summon wind to blow out the candles? So I'll be honest, as of now, this choice means nothing. This is just a choice for you to watch the movie, very short movie, or not watch the movie. It should be impactful in the kind of finished polished game, but here it doesn't change your ending at all. So you either just let them burn or you summon the wind. So let's summon it. You have, and also, yeah, play the mini game, obviously. You have to remember the scroll, choose the correct ones. So, this. This. I also like already remember the song because I spent a lot of time on these mini games. Second, easier for me. So you feel the rush of strong wind. And that's it. And the sound is maybe a bit goofy. Maybe that's because I know that's just me blowing in the mic. I don't know how it feels if you don't know how it was recorded. But I tried to record the sound of wind blowing, and this is what I got. And now the candles are looking dead. You can move forward to the next room or go back to the main. But obviously, there's nothing else to do. We could always move to the next room. You don't have to extinguish the candles to do so. And so now they are extinguished. Let's go forward. The door is jammed. No matter how much you rattle the handle, it won't budge. But you look at the scrolls in your hands. Wind and ravens. So if we go here without the wind scroll, you shouldn't be able to do anything. Here is supposed to be a harder memory mini game, but it was already like by the time I was at this point, I think there was like hour left until submission hour. So I was really cutting it super close. I technically just didn't have time to write even a more complicated memory game, and so unfortunately I had to choose another approach, and that's what we got. Suddenly an idea springs to mind from the depths of your hidden memories. You could tie them together and create a new spell. You could summon Raven Wind. And so we are just summoning Raven Wind here, but I wanted still to make it a little bit more fun, like something is happening. Runes come to mind. Chernobog. This is the first rune. I wanted them to be in the middle, but it wasn't that easy again. I would need to spend quite, well, a little bit of time that I really didn't have. And I thought, okay, them being here also kind of makes sense. So that's where they are. Rune of the Raven. And I took this as an opportunity to kind of tell you a little bit about the runes and what they mean. And so this is actually... This is not necessarily, again, like their true meaning. Don't learn the runes from this. The names of the runes are correct, but my interpretation isn't always like the correct interpretation, so to say. In this game, this is the rune of the Raven. Next. Ветер, rune of the wind. So ветер basically means wind. And lastly, исток, the source of it all. And исток means the source. You repeat the runes one by one, feeling the power seeping through you. As if a huge wing was guiding you. As you can hear, there's a little bit of raven voice. Actually, for this, I wasn't sure how to imitate a raven, so I found a video of just ravens in the wild and recorded on my device a little bit of their voices. So this is actually like one of the sounds I didn't do myself. As if a huge wing was guiding you, you push out the door with one hand, not even touching it once. So you don't even touch the door. It's like the wind comes out of your wing, like this, like you create this wind wave. And here we have another room. Okay, I had a bit more time when I was working on this. Still not much, because you can see it's just like in the middle of some space. There isn't even like a wall or a floor. It's all the same space. But I could add a bit of details like a map, some tea, eraser, etc. This room has a huge table with papers and maps on it. Looks like some plans were made here. You look around, noticing a journal on the table and a new scroll nearby. And here, well, here it's even more obvious, like what objects should we choose, so you don't have to worry about that. Let's take the scroll. You take the scroll with lightning on it, must be a spell that summons thunder. It could come in handy. And also we have this, you walk over to the table and look through the journal. Well, here it is actually useful hiding the text box. And yes, this is where I used my writings when I was planning the game. This is something I also did with my previous entry, single circle. And I mean, I kind of like doing this. Maybe it could be better because here you can, I think, notice that I use different parts from different pages and then edited them on a single page on my laptop. So it probably would be better to just draw a page specifically for the game so you don't have to edit it. But at the same time, I kind of like the idea of taking parts of my creative process into the game itself as a game asset. And some points I added already on my graphic tablet. Like here is a little hint. Oh gosh, I forgot to show you the secret. That's okay, I'll show it a bit later. This is I'll show it after maybe 2 main endings, we'll see. But this is a hint. If you go first, don't touch the people in the left room, let them be, and just take the scroll. Then, so it's not very easy, right? And then go to the right room, or maybe it's your second playthrough and you already been to the right room and you saw this hint, because the only mini game in this playthrough you'll have where you can choose a raven leg, this rune Chernabog, 3 times in a row, is this game with humans in the left room, and this is where you can put it to the test. So this is a little hint for the player how to achieve the secret ending. Actually, we can look through it right now. So these are some little other details that you can kind of use as clues to understand what is going on. In my opinion, because I know the story, it makes it pretty obvious. So we have this sacred stone, we have our character here, 1, 2, these 2 important points, and then nearby we have this creature that also has 2 points, Eye of the Raven, and this replicate. So you can make some connection here, right? Then you can see a little cute bird, but it says for the interviews. And yeah, we didn't see anything like that in the interviews, but it was just an idea at the time they were playing. So then the design changed a little bit. And again, we can make the triangle connection here. Here we have a symbol that we actually see here, and we can see it in the main room on the coffin if we go back there. And the name Chernakryl. I wasn't sure how to write the sound I in English, so there were 2 options here. And this is, I think, the most kind of obvious clue. I even wiped a little bit here the connection, but you can still here see there's human body and demon spirit. So again, I'm like not saying anything outright, so you can make the connection yourself. We have summon papers, ancient scrolls from that government lab. That government. And so, what could that all mean? You feel a strange sense of familiarity, as if something very important to you is depicted on the page. You shake it off and put the papers away. So the game kind of hints you, hey, this is important. And so just wanted to show you. Yeah, see here on the coffin, we see that same symbol that we got in the planning room. That's how I called it, either table room or planning room. I have code names for them all. So now let's save our progress and load. What did we have here? Right. So now let's check the secret ending, okay? As I just remembered about it. So suppose it is our maybe second playthrough, or we didn't touch them at first and we saw the hint in the planning room. Now we go here and we go to the rune activation. And usually when you choose the incorrect rune, it will tell you you chose the wrong rune. You have to start over, right? I'm safe scamming by scrolling the wheel up so I don't get the bad ending. But basically here we choose it first time. And it is correct the first time, but then you choose it second time. And it doesn't give you that answer that you usually get for the wrong rune. You feel in your gut, this wasn't the right rune for this summoning. However, and note that we also heard that raven sound effect, there is a dark urge in your heart. There is one more rune to choose. So here it was even a little bit more different to code because there were different paths of this mini game, so it took even more time. Now we can choose it again. Something grows inside of you while your body is shrinking. Unfortunately, this is another instance where I had to cut corners. This is supposed to be a completely different image. It's supposed to be also a little bit of a movie, and I actually wanted to do all the endings as a bit of a movie, but I guess I overscoped with that a little bit. So here it is very simplified. A strange call escapes your lips or your beak. After a second, you spread your wings and fly out the window. So I just put some effects on this room. I used a raven from Raven Attack. Just gave him an eye that he didn't have, and that is basically it. It is supposed to be a CG, a movie, etc. But at least that's something. And this is the secret ending. When you use the rune of the raven, or like the leg of the raven 3 times, then you get turned into a raven and fly out the window. And you get the raven ending. That is it. That is the secret ending. Very simple, very easy. Let's continue with our main playthrough. So we wait. Did I load the correct file? I think I found a little bit of a bug here because they are supposed to be extinguished now, right? But for some reason they are not. So kind of the code undoes itself when I load, and there's no point in saving. That is a bit strange. I'll do everything again real quick then. And well, basically you don't have to check the objects like this. This is just for you to understand the story, the lore. It's not like necessary for the endings or anything. There, in theory, there should be some objects. For example, in a candle room, there's supposed to be a mirror that you can look in and see yourself, or you can decide not to look in it. And it's also supposed to be a choice that decides your ending, for example. But yeah, not here yet, not implemented yet. And here we have the next room. The door to the next room is also blocked, by this time by all the fallen debris. You have another search of inspiration, this time with Thunder Scroll and Strength Scroll. And you can really see here, I think that I had to rush the game. Then I'm like, okay, this, and we go to this room real quick because we need to get to the ending. An inner voice whispers to you about a spell born from these ones. Thunder Strengths. Summon Thunder Strengths. Again, game does everything for you. With resolve, you summon the runes. Sila. Sila basically means strength. So now it's a bit different. Now it's in the left corner. Perun in the middle. And the rune of the ancient god. This was like the main god in our pagan mythology of ancient Slavic people, and as in many other mythologies, he was wielding thunder, so I thought that's really fitting to use his rune for the thunder spell. And Raduga. You can see the rune here on the scroll. It looks like English letter R, and Raduga basically means rainbow. The rainbow that comes after the storm. That is also why I choose it for thunder, because thunder is strong. Perun is a god of thunder, and Raduga, rainbow, is something that appears after the rain, maybe after the thunder as well, right? So I tried to use the runes for the spells that actually make sense, at least in my head. All together, they create a thunderous wave, clearing the debris. Now, they all look a bit goofy here, grouped up, but yeah, I just had to do it real quick. Once again, you hear a voice. It comes from this room. Okay, we are going to kind of a bit of a final scene before the ending. And again, unfortunately, it isn't how I imagined it to be. Yeah, so you push the door, walking towards the voice. You see the person who was talking to you lying on the debris. And yes, I didn't have any time. This last hour. I was rushing. I was in panic that I'm not even going to submit it. I inverted the window in this room that is like initially a window room, used some effects, and drew a very crude image. Basically, so you can understand what is going on here. This is supposed to be a completely different looking room. It's an office, and I think the idea was not even a piece of the ceiling. It was like a heavy wooden desk that is supposed to be lying on this person, and the scroll is supposed to be an item you can click on and take. But this is what you get for now. It works, it does the job. So let's see. You see the person, okay. With her dying breath, she asks, "Will you help us?" So again, there's not much dialogue in this game, so I tried to use it wisely and again give the hints in the dialogue for you to figure the story out. And here you have your final choice. Well, we didn't actually do anything with the flower in a flower room, as you remember, so for us it's not the final choice right now. But you can either say yes, I will help you, or you can push the debris down. So yeah, it's nothing really happens when you push the debris down on the screen. It's supposed to also be a movie, and let's kind of look through it using safe scamming, I think. So if we say yes, you nod and she lets out a final satisfied breath. You take the scroll from her and smile. It's a spell to summon a key. And basically, then it won't be much different because I made it super short here. And if you push the debris down, you don't answer and move closer to push the piece of falling ceiling down. You have a bit of a sound effect. The woman chokes in painful screams before finally dying. You feel a hint of satisfaction. You take the scroll from her and smile. It's a spell to summon a key. I think this choice is pretty obvious from the jump. Like, especially if you already know what the endings are, you will realize which option is for which ending, right? So here again we have to click through this text. I'll have to fix that in a like full release. Leave the candles. I'm kind of surprised why the save was so shitty. In any case, now hopefully the save doesn't fail me, because I'm going to... Well, we can also save scam, I think, but that would be a little too long. We'll make a final decision. Here the text changes a little bit. Such pretty flowers don't last forever, and you have a scroll that could destroy them in an instant. So we can either summon thunder or leave the flowers be. We can actually look for both options. If we leave them be, their gentleness evokes something in you, a strange feeling coming not from your soul, but from your blood. Again, a little hint on what is going on and like how exactly it's going on, so to say. You decide to leave them be, but you always have the option to still do it. Like if you leave them be, the spot doesn't become inactive. You can still go back and decide to do it after all. So let's summon thunder here. I still had time to do a mini game. So basically, as it is now, there are 3 little mini games with pretty much same difficulty. Well, I would say like the first one is the most simple one because of the runes chosen. Okay, let's do it. Push. Thunder comes quickly, showing no mercy. And here we have a little movie. Very simple, but again, it does the job. Maybe I will update it when I have time. The flowers are wilted now, nothing left to look at. And these are honestly the 3 main decisions: using the Raven Scroll, using the Thunder Scroll, and if you agree to help or you push the debris down. These are actually the choices that matter for the ending that you get. Right now, like this is not how it's supposed to be in my genius overarching ideal, right? But as the game is now for Ludum Dare, these are the main choices. So with this, let's go to the last room. Yay, we are almost at the end. You see, it takes long because I kind of walk you through my thought process, my development process, and comment on the game. But if you play through it yourself, it's actually a very short game. Okay, a bit loud now. Now that you have the key, you can finally leave. And this background is a huge contrast to all the backgrounds we had before, and I think it's pretty noticeable right away. All the other rooms we were in, they were pretty dark, but this is super light. It's like the lightest room. I added a little bit details that also hint at the this is actually just from the building being a bit run down, not even like from the explosion wave. And we have a door that is actually a bit in shape of a coffin, and I thought it's cute because for this I was researching like Undertaker's office. I think maybe it's like mostly word used in USA because I think it mostly showed me locations in USA, and in one of like real life Undertaker's offices on the photo in the Google I saw literally a coffin door, and I thought this is so great. I'm going to use this. And yeah, I don't think it's kind of told anywhere to you in the game, but this building is Undertaker's office, and they kind of played on it a little bit, making a room with candles. Obviously we have a coffin, so there could also be a room with maybe other empty coffins, or they could be in the main room in theory. And we have a flower room, because flowers is something that you need, right, for that for that purposes. But you can also see that it isn't really like being used maybe only as Undertaker's office or as that office at all. Maybe it's just like a cover up. As here we can see some posters that encourage you to not be silent and to have a free country now and fight corruption. And here, as obviously as a creator, you are inspired by things around you. And in my mind, I also tied this game to another game I have in mind that will happen after this, that also has this theme. I will talk a bit after the playthrough about it. And so I just wanted to explain the design of this room. I used a flag that is used by Russian opposition. It's kind of hidden here, but it's still pretty obvious, because in usual Russian flag you have the color red, but here the color red is a bit like off the flag, it's behind the flag, it's something maybe eating away at this blue and white environment. And so the flag of Russian opposition to the current government, is this, it's called like flag of free Russia, because I'm kind of getting emotional about it, but since this is kind of something I was also partly inspired by for this game, I wanted to choose this flag here, so you can from like, if you know this context, it's easier for you to realize, this is actually this kind of hidden office of an opposition. But again, I have to say, it's not like a representation. The world of this game is not one-to-one representation of real life. It's just heavily inspired by it. And obviously in this world, it's not very, how to say it, realistic, in a sense that there are, let's say there is magic, right? We just summoned a few spells, right? We don't actually do it here in Russia in real life. We don't summon spells from the rooms, well, usually. So now I just wanted to explain it, so it's just and you can see this flag here too, it a bit more obvious details. So yeah, don't tell about this part of the game to Russian government, so I don't get in the jail, thank you. Now let's continue. Now that you have the key, you can finally leave. You could play another summoning game if only the jam wasn't ending in 1 hour. I was like, yeah, let's break this fourth wall. I have to explain why there's nothing. Oh well. Yay! That key unlocked the final memory. This is my favorite CG. And what is crazy about it? This was also drawn in this like last hour, last minutes. So I drew it pretty quickly, but I think it turned out pretty impactful. I really like it personally. Maybe it's a bit vain to kind of gush about your own work, but this I think is like my favorite part art-wise in this game, aside from cute picture book. This is the part I'm kind of most proud of, and I'm really happy with this CG. Which you will have to remember for another ending, because that I'm not happy with another CG. But yeah, you got the... okay, let's read through it. And here I use the music from the main menu. So I thought it would be a shame if a player doesn't hear it at all, because not staying much time in the main menu. So maybe here they would have that opportunity if they kind of, while they're looking at the CG or maybe reading a bit through the ending. That key unlocked the final memory. You finally remember who you really are. It's time to spread your wings. Demon ending, yay! So this is it. Let's see if our save has worked. Okay, it seems that it did. Let's see if it... Yes! So see, I saved before the founder decision. Basically choosing the founder was the final straw. If you do all three, Raven scroll, founder scroll, and pushing the debris down, you get the demon ending. And if you don't get all 3 points, if you get only 2 of these points, it doesn't matter if it's less, you get the human ending. So yeah, it's terribly simplified for this Ludum Dare entry, but it's going to be more complicated in the finished release. And here we have a CG for human ending. Everything is good. So I had the design of the CGs actually worked out on my first day, but I was drawing them only in last moments on my third day. So unfortunately here I didn't have time at all to kind of draw it out, so it's very like a sketch. We have some alcoholic here in an alley, we have a punk guy smoking, and yeah, we don't have these guys anymore. It was like when I was much younger, it was more like something that you would more often see on the street, the punk style. And I also considered myself a punk at the time when I was a teenager. So again, not like an accurate representation of the time we have, but something more of a dystopian alternative reality. Well, I mean, it's funny to say because the reality right now is also dystopian, but this is like the reality is dystopian, but this is alternative dystopian reality. And so here we have, still unsure of who you really are, you venture out in the streets, and yeah, you can see yourself, the person that we also saw in like these paper plans. The promise you made to that woman. You see, like this is also the problem of rushing, right? Because here it implies that you promised her to help, because of the human ending, because of that's like being final decision. But since I simplified the system, you can push the debris down, still get this ending, and see this line. Like this is a bit of a problem, of course, that will have to be fixed. So let's just imagine that in this playthrough we promised to help her. So the promise you made to that woman, help us. You wonder if you can keep it. Human ending. So yeah, in my mind, and this is it. We got all the endings, right? We basically completed the game. So now I can kind of talk a little bit about it. Whew. And we can't really talk about the ending without explaining what actually happened, like the whole story. Obviously, when I was writing my plan, at first I was like, oh hey, yeah, I had that game Dead End, where we no, actually, that's not what I started with. I thought summoning. Like, what should I do with this theme? And basically, the idea I had explains what happens in the game. I thought summoning a spirit into a person's body. I actually I was inspired by a phrase. I'm in your head. And I thought, wait, that kind of gives me a surge of inspiration that someone is in my head. Well, technically, as you can see, it kind of, is it in the head or is it in the like soul? Where the soul is, it in the chest or the stomach? That's kind of another detail, because here when I drew the picture, it was more like, I don't know if you can see, probably not, it was more like in the stomach area of a human. But basically the idea is that you summon a demon spirit into a human's body. And so the soul of the person isn't there anymore. It is replaced by a demon. But as we can see in some of the hints, even though the human soul left, there's still some infighting going. And why is this happening? So starting from the beginning, we are in this alternative dystopian Russian world, and we have an oppressive government, just like in the reality. But in this alternative reality, these are different people, different characters, obviously, and they actually came to power, and they are holding their power because they summoned the demons. As you can hear from the voice line, they summoned their demons. So we decided that we would summon ours, basically explaining that that oppressive government used demon summoning to hold their power. And there is this opposition that kind of came to a conclusion, okay, like regular methods, they don't work. If they have the demons, we have to fight that with demons. And I actually came to this idea because of another game I had in mind. I wanted to create this Zelda-like punk style dystopian world. Again, it would be happening in like an alternative St. Petersburg, my home city, and it would actually be about separation of that area from the whole federation, from the country, to become its own independent country. That was the idea, and this is actually also the world that we are exploring in my game Whispers. I used the same setting actually, and you will be able to notice it down the line when I make that punk style game. And if you play both that and Whispers, you will see the connections. And in that Zelda-like that I was imagining, your main character is going to fight the monsters, but these monsters that I imagined, they would have names like something like corruption, right? Or maybe oppression, or some details from some horrible things that the government uses or the government represents, stuff like this, that are detrimental for the people living in the country, for the country itself. And so this, it would be called a corruption, as in actual thing, the fact of corruption, taking like money, stealing money, right? But it would look like a demon. And so in that Zelda-like, it would be basically overthrowing the government and separating as a separate country, but it would be presented as like fighting monsters, finding artifacts, stuff like that. And so when I was thinking like, why did people in this game summon a demon? I remembered that idea and I thought, this is the origin story of that hero. And it will make sense why can he fight demons, because actually this is a demon in a human body. And it explains also why he will be like a silent protagonist, like Link from Zelda, because it's a demon, he can't speak human language. And how did this all happen? Basically, now tying it all together, the opposition, they did their best. They found some scrolls, they found some information, they found info on the demons, and most importantly, they found that Eye of the Raven. So basically, the only demon they could summon was Chernakryl. This was because they had his sacred stone, the Eye of the Raven. And then they decided to conduct interviews. They called people, and like, I am unsure about this. I like as you can imagine, I am on the side of the opposition myself, right? But nobody in my game is a perfect person. They are morally ambiguous, and you can already see from demon summoning that they are being pushed to the wall to the extent that they are ready to summon a demon just to and they get this government away from the government spaces, right? So they're pretty desperate. And I'm not really sure, like I imagined in my head that they interviewed these people in a pretense that they're interviewing them for some job, for something else, and something pretty harmless. And they specifically made this picture book to deceive the people. They would be like, okay, we just would like to know a little bit about your personality, like what kind of person you are. You see, we have this little cute picture book for kids, and there are different kid creatures, and they have their own like traits, and maybe you could tell us like who do you most relate to, and so we could understand you better. But in reality, they tried to find compatibility. When we look at the interviews, Dima was not a good option. I have to like remember the interviews. Dima was not a good option because first of all, he had relatives. I think that was the most important, and I think like maybe there were some other details as well. But that was like the main one. For the second girl was also that she's afraid of birds, and this here Chernakryl is kind of like a representation of the raven, and this is a bird. They thought it's not really compatible, so in the interviews you actually see that they looked for someone who doesn't have relatives, so nobody would look for them if they disappear. So that's an important question. They also asked for like what are your goals, and since that our character said that the goal is freedom, they thought, okay, this is like aligning with our interest. We want freedom in our country, right? We want to free it. And so their relatives are deceased, nobody will look for them, and then their greatest fear though is losing control, and that's where it gets more sad, I suppose. And maybe how to say, this is exactly what happens to them, right? This person that was chosen, I didn't like specify the gender. I think I imagined that human as a woman, but basically that's you, that's the player, so the gender is a bit ambiguous. And then I imagined the demon more like a he, so that would be this male demon in a female body. But in reality, just like you imagine yourself in theory, right, when you are playing. This person was really scared of losing control, and so when this happens, they are still trying to latch on their body, they're still trying to keep that control. But that's not the main problem. The demon is very powerful. The problem here is that it was the very first ritual, and the information that the rebellion, the opposition managed to find, it was scarce, and so they made a mistake in their summoning, in their first summoning. As you can see in the left room, when you get to the scared people, they say that was a mistake, like we should never have done this, and they are scared of you. So because of this mistake, when the ritual was conducted, so that also explains why you wake up in a coffin. That was basically the part of the ritual. The human has to die in order for the demon to go in, but the fact is, for the ritual you don't kill the human that you chosen. You put the live human, well, maybe unconscious, right? Preferably unconscious, in the coffin. You draw the symbol on the coffin. Then, like, I didn't really think through all the parts of the ritual. Maybe in the future I'll kind of figure all the details out, but there are also other things that you have to do. For example, that room with a lot of candles, that's also part of the ritual that was also needed for demon summoning. And when they make that mistake, an explosion wave happens. So the soul of the demon goes into that human body, pushing the human soul out, taking its place. And because of the mistake, the impact was so strong that it created an explosion wave. It disfigured the building quite a bit. It killed a lot of people, most of the people in this group. And the woman that we find in the final room is actually the leader of the opposition. So that was all her idea. And I guess at the moment of the ritual, for some reason, she was in the office. So she was, well, as I said, she was supposed to be kind of crushed by the desk. So she was dying anyway. And your choice is just to kind of test your moral compass. Because, and yeah, so yeah, sorry, going back, that demon went, so there was an explosion wave, and then because of the mistake, the demon lost his memories. He doesn't remember. So we are playing as a demon in a human body. The creature we are playing is actually a demon, but he doesn't have any memories. He doesn't remember anything. So the thing is that there's still like some remnants of humanity in that body. So when we see notes like something in your blood, something in your brain, something like in the physical parts of you is giving you some incentive, some kind of feeling, this is the human part, right? And what you are kind of thinking, your soul, is your demon part. And basically when you are making some kind of decisions throughout the game, you are either giving in more to the demon part, or you are giving in more to the human part. And so the demon by himself, he wants destruction. First of all, this is a very destructive demon, and especially if he was summoned in the wrong way, he isn't going to do anyone's bidding. He's just going to run wild. And when you give in to the demon side, that's when you get the demon ending. You remember who you are, and then because of that you kind of transform in this human body through the power of your soul. You transform into image of yourself, just using that body as a vessel, right, as so to say, as building blocks. And you just go crazy in that city. But if you give in more to your human side, then this thing that you just lived through, it becomes the only anchor for you in this world. As you perceive yourself as human, you don't have any memories in this world, and ideally, right, you promise that leader of opposition to help her. So even though most of the opposition, at least in this building, obviously you're going to find some other groups, most of them are dead, but in a sense they succeeded. If you get a human ending, because you are still going to do their bidding, you are going to try to help them, but it will be exactly like the start of that Zelda-like that I imagined, where you confused with no memories in this unfamiliar world, trying to figure out what to do, and when you fight the demons. So that is basically the story. I think I covered everything. Well, there's obviously, like, I wrote down a lot of stuff on the theme. I wanted to create maybe a special demon language. I wrote down some other ideas for summoning, like the key, that maybe you need to find some objects and then you summon them to find them. That was also one of the ideas. So that was a very long and fruitful process, and it was really fun. This is the page also when again it's inverted. I plan out, but you can recognize the demon CG here, and there was a list of things that I had to do, just a to-do list that I had. Oh gosh, yeah, the list of the rooms that we explore and what is going to be into each of these rooms. So many pages of that. Whew, for such a short game, it was a very long video. I'm like exhausted by now, but hopefully, yeah, and I will place the time codes. So if you are just interested in a particular ending, in a particular part, then you should be good. But if you watched through this whole video, gosh, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you are coming from Ludum Dare, if you kind of had troubles with HTML version and you can't download the regular version, I hope this video helped you to kind of figure out something about this game so you can rate it possibly, and maybe write some comment either here on my YouTube or on my Ludum Dare page. And also I will leave a link to my itch.io. It has this project obviously, but also my previous projects, some of which I mentioned in this video. So if you're curious, you can also check them out. This is like a hobby of mine that I'm very passionate about. I really enjoy making stories in the games, and I think that's really fun. And I hope that was fun for you as well. But that would be it for today, I think. So thank you for watching and see ya.